After that, once you've seen the land, it's important to draft a sales agreement, and it's important to establish who is paying the legal fees from the onset. Majority of the times, we advise our customers that if they have advocates and lawyers, it's important we engage a lawyer to lawyer, because as an organization we have an advocate, and if you have a lawyer, because majority of the people now have access to advocates to help them with land transactions. It's very important. So once you've seen the land and you like it, we introduce our lawyers to each other, and then there are some documents that we require from you, which is the ID, your ID, and then there is a postal address, and then there is a KRA PIN certificate and a passport size photograph.
These are the documents you need for that sales agreement?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Yes.
And this also has to be signed by both parties?
Correct.
All right. Well said. All these processes, well enumerated. Due diligence has been done. So then what happens? Because these are cases that not one, not two. Currently, we have an active case. We might not get to the details of it because it's an ongoing case. In fact, the DCI were probing on that particular issue yesterday, what is happening currently in Westlands. And these are cases that have been ongoing. Someone has done due diligence, just as you explained. They finally bought that particular land, but years later, again, someone comes in and says, 3 years before now, I bought the same land. And actually, when you look at the documentation, they are the same. So what normally happens that you will get land X, whereby, as Doreen, I present the documentation, as Martin, you do, and they are both the perfect documents for the same land, double ownership. How does that occur?
Okay, thank you for that question. It is important to mention that when you're doing a land transaction, and this is something that we've seen as an organization, there are usually, because we buy land as well, so there are usually some red flags when you're buying land that people ignore. So you'll find that people are investing in land, but on the onset, you will find that you've seen something that is not corresponding with what you know in terms of land ownership and a land transaction. So once you see a red flag, because the red flags are usually everywhere, so you'll go to a piece of land, for example, and the beacons are not matching the map, for example, and then the person convinces you that you know what, this is something that we can rectify, and then you say, okay, if you can rectify, it's okay. So there are usually a lot of, from experience, red flags when it comes to land buying that people ignore. So it is very important not to ignore any flag that you see when you're doing land transaction. For example, if you're buying a piece of land and you ask for the title of the land, and the person starts saying, you know what, give me some 30 days, I'll give you the title, or you can pay some money and then I'll give you the title in 30 days. You go ahead and pay, and yet you know very well that you need to see the title before you pay the money. Are we together? Secondly, you ask someone, what is the history of the land? And then they didn't tell you anything about it. And then they tell you, you know what, it's a long story. It's a long story, but what you need to know is that the land belongs to us. It's a red flag that people ignore. So it is very important that when you're buying land, it is very important to stick to your ground on everything that you want and everything that we've said. Don't back out if it comes to documents, if it comes to paperwork, if it comes to due diligence. Don't use shortcuts.